Derek, thank you for doing this. I know it's been a rough couple of days for you, so I'm thankful
Oh
for you.
man, it's been tough. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. By the way, I just want to point out, this is I haven't shown anybody yet, but this is my basement down here. I got a nice like movie theater
That's
setup.
awesome, dude.
I know, and like I almost have a basement now that's as cool as yours. It's almost there.
So first of all, I don't even have a basement. I have this is actually not the greatest room ever. So at the top of my stairs, there's like this big open area that was supposed to be a bedroom, but they gave us the option when they were building it to leave it open. It's kind of like a landing.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, well, that'd be a cool place to put like a couch and a TV or whatever. So that's what we did. We put this massive couch and a TV, a massive TV. I got like a 70-inch TV back there. But then I started this podcast and I had this little tiny desk. I mean, it was like a elementary school desk that I started this thing on. And in my early videos, if you look behind me, you see the whole room, you see like the TV, the couch and all that stuff. But as the podcast got bigger, the couch got smaller. Eventually it became 2 chairs. I had to sell 2 couches. And now it's just like it's one of those room dividers, like you see people changing behind or whatever. And then it's connected to, I've got this it's like a curtain that runs on a pole across the room. So it looks from the outside really trashy, but from the inside on camera,
no, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters here. So yeah, we got a nice setup here. But the Yankee season is now over, and I needed somebody to mourn with today.
Oh man,
misery loves company, and so you're my boss, you're my friend, you're somebody who's going through it like I am. Just how you feeling, man? We're almost 24 hours after the beatdown here in the Bronx.
So I would love to say that I'm optimistic about next season, but I don't see how. I don't see any way we get as good as the Astros in one offseason. They're so like I left this series. I already knew I disliked the Astros, but now I legitimately respect the Astros. They are a good baseball team. And, they play the game the right way right now. They didn't years ago, but they play hard. They run hard. They play good defense. They pitch well. They got a shutdown bullpen. I just don't know how the Yankees can get to that level without being extremely creative. And the problem is, if you bring in somebody other than Brian Cashman, right, it's going to take time for that person to get acclimated. They're not going to be able to just step in and day one transform the organization. And if you leave Brian Cashman in the position that he's in, unfortunately, I think you're going to get more of the same. So the Yankees are kind of between the proverbial rock and a hard place. And honestly, it's just got me very down. So I'm just not feeling great.
I know it's just so the way the Astros have just annihilated us here for going on 7 years now. I feel like the sisters in Shawshank treated Andy with more respect than the way the Astros have treated the Yankees. It's ridiculous. Just
we're definitely swallowing what they give us to swallow right now. To borrow a phrase from that.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. The way that just culminating last night and just the way they played New York on the field with all, just having the brooms there. All the only enjoyable part of the celebration was seeing Kate Upton there. That was it.
I didn't even watch the celebration, literally. So that's that's both a positive and a negative for me. I go live generally within 3 minutes of the game ending. Right. That's kind of how I've grown my channel is I'm first up and I got high level stuff right away. And that's key to it. But that causes me to miss a lot of like the celebrations for walk-offs, both sides. And the championship celebrations, I had to watch them the next day. And it's just a different feeling for me, like than watching it live.
Where's your TV located? It's behind you or
it's behind me on like there's a wall right there. I've also got a screen right here, but when MLB TV, like when the game ends, you generally don't get a lot of the clubhouse celebration and stuff. So I get a little bit of the on-field stuff, and occasionally you'll see me commenting on that after a big walk-off or whatever. But last night, I wasn't watching on an app. I was watching on TBS or whatever it was. So literally the minute that Aaron Judge made contact and I saw the ball end up in the pitcher's glove, I turned my back and closed the curtain. I was standing right at the edge where this curtain closes. I was just standing there watching it. And the second that the pitcher caught that, he might have been hit by lightning on the way, and I would have started my
You
post
wouldn't have
game.
noticed.
I wouldn't have known. And so look, that was a rough night. I didn't really, fortunately for me, get to see much of the celebration, but I can imagine it. I've seen plenty of celebrations. The toughest one for me was the '04 Red Sox in the ALCS in Yankee Stadium, and it wasn't a close game. It was they dragged us
10-3.
for, it was they beat the hell out of us, and then they had the celebration, and you had to just wait for it all night. And my best friend is a Red Sox fan. He was my college roommate. He played on the rugby team, and he's a big Red Sox fan. And I had rubbed his motherfucking face in it so much the previous year, and he was all over me. He was all over me. I had I think 411 missed calls because people, like all my baseball friends, I went to school in the South.
You suck.
I know all my friends were not Yankees fans. They're Braves fans. They're Red Sox fans. And so everybody I knew was calling multiple times just to make sure, in case I missed it somehow, that I knew the Yankees had blown a 3-0 lead.
Hey, did you see Johnny Damon hit one 500 feet in the right field?
Yeah.
Kevin Brown just
Kevin Brown.
Mike Francesa compared that game to it was like a heavyweight fight where the guy gets knocked out in the first round, but in boxing, you leave and go home. In baseball, you have to watch it for 3 hours.
Yeah.
It was 6-0, I think, in the second inning, and that was right after like didn't there was like a play at the plate in the first inning. Yankees got it out, and then Ortiz had a 2-run home run, I think, in the right.
Yeah, I don't recall the exact. There are sections of my life that I've kind of blacked out with heavy drinking, and that was one of them. And I
haven't developed a drinking addiction yet, but maybe after the postseason, I may have to just like, you know what, I got to forget about this.
I remember the Ortiz home run. I don't remember the play at the plate, but I remember that Kevin Brown was on the mound, and he had all sorts of issues that year. He had broken his hand and come out of a game late in the season, and the Yankees fans kind of felt about him about the same way that they feel about Aaron Hicks, just kind of don't really expect anything from him ever. In fact, pretty disgusted by his play most of the time. I think Kevin Brown had started that year off 2-0 with 2 really great games, and it was just like it all fell apart after that.
Yeah.
And he had broken his hand, and he came back, and we didn't know what to expect. He was well rested. We thought, well, maybe he'll be pumped up in a game 7, hasn't pitched in a while, and we'll see the Kevin Brown that's a fierce competitor. And but what we all found out about Kevin Brown that night was that he's not a fierce competitor. He just kind of caved to the moment. And that was one of the toughest games I've ever had to sit through. That was tougher than last night.
Kevin Brown and Javi Vasquez, I think, was the
Vasquez came in and gave up the grand slam. And Vasquez is one of those all-timers for Brian Cashman because he traded for him twice, and he sucked both times. Imagine this. I want you to imagine this.
Okay.
Imagine if the Yankees signed Joey Gallo this winter.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Cashman was like, you know what, it was a weird year. Let's give him another shot. You know what, what's more realistic? They bring back Gallo or Brett Gardner. At the point, either one, it seems it's just. I would put nothing past Brian Cashman, but at least what I can take away from this is 2004 was more painful. 2012 is probably more painful because I don't think we had a lead in that entire series. But this one, just with all the buildup, with the 3 years, with everything after the cheating, and we got to get back to these, we got to beat these guys, and then we don't beat them. We don't get there in 20. We lose to the Rays, and then we don't get there in 21. And to just have that be the final nail. And what hurts worse is, last season, I was glad when it was over. Last season was such a miserable from beginning to end season that I was so happy that it was over. Yeah. This one, what made it sad is that there were really great moments all throughout the season, whether it was Judge's 62, whether it was all the walk-offs, whether the fact that the Yankees had 2 walk-off grand slams down 3 in the ninth, which has only happened like 30 times in the history of baseball, and the Yankees did it twice in 1 year. Yeah. The great, and then that's just signature moments. I'm talking about also the great start to the season we had after the really rough week. I think that we got swept by the Orioles, and then we won, or we lost 2 out of 3 to the Orioles. And then we had that great from the third week of the season all the way to June. And we're thinking, wow, this team could actually win the championship. And then to just the fall apart in the summer like that. And then we get it back later in the season. And then we get back in September, come back against the Guardians, and then we're ready. And then to just have that kind of performance, it leaves you with a really, really bitter taste in your mouth.
Yeah. I'm not feeling good. And like I said, there's a lot that the Yankees need to do to catch the Astros, and I'm just not feeling like optimistic that they can get there with the mindset that they have. And I saw somebody tweeted this, and I don't recall who it is, so apologies if they're watching and I misquote them or whatever. But I think it was Fireside Yankees. They posted a thing that showed the Yankees front office and when they started their jobs versus when the Astros front office started their jobs. And it was all like, they had very, very modern people that started. Now, granted, a lot of those people got fired for
I was gonna
cheating.
point that out. Like there should be an asterisk next to that.
That's a fair. But the thing about that wasn't so much the Astros comparison. It was that so many of the Yankees front office had been there for decades since, and they had survived the 2004 collapse, which I followed the Yankees back then, but there was no, I didn't have the S Network. I was in college, so I watched everything on like MLB TV, and I was going to college in North Carolina, so I didn't have access to all the local news. So I just wasn't following the front office type stuff as closely as I should. But I just figured that George Steinbrenner, being the owner, would have cleaned house. Everybody under Cashman, everybody beside, the valets, get rid of them. Like, I just figured that's what happened. And it shocked me that it didn't.
But that was like George near the end. That was George when, his health probably wasn't in great shape and he'd probably given more of the responsibilities.
He was in his fat Elvis phase by that point, but he was definitely, starting to yield power to Cashman and his group. But I don't know why I just assumed that everybody had been canned.
But the difference, I guess, between that Yankee team and this one is that Yankee team at least can say, all right, we won 4 championships in 5 years. Like Torrey was this respected manager and Cashman was still living off the success of that. And this team, this manager and this general manager, it's like, and Cashman has a title, but it was a long, long time ago. And Boone has done nothing. But what Boone has done here, I was trying to compare it last night. Boone got the keys to Ferrari when he got this team. When he took over for Girardi, he got the keys to Ferrari. And what he's done with that Ferrari is basically what Cameron did at the end of Ferris Bueller, which is to drive it out of the window and into the whatever it was.
It's a swimming pool, I think.
Into the swimming pool.
Yeah.
So that's what he's done with it. I just don't understand why this organization still feels, after all of this, of the failing to meet expectations for the past 5 years, why they still feel like we need to keep doing this. And people are getting fed up. Michael Kay, I don't know if you heard his show today, he was ripping Boone a new one, and especially over the great thing that we heard last night, which was, we sent video where we asked David Ortiz to give a pep talk. Oh my god, I want.
That's the problem with winning once in 20 years is you don't have any of your own legends to go to. You know what I mean? No. Like when the Yankees needed a pep talk in the 90s, they'd go to the guys from the 70s, the Ron Guidrys, the Reggie Jacksons, and even some of the guys from the 60s, the Whitey Fords, and I think Mantle was gone by 95 or so. But the fact that you have to show, I can't even properly wrap my mind around the concept of showing your team losing, blowing the lead, like the lowest point in franchise history. You're going to show your team. It's like, I get it. They're different players. You're trying to, but like I said last night, put on Rocky IV.
Yes.
That movie makes me want to work out and run through a wall.
That ended the Cold War.
Put on Rocky IV.
That's what you needed to do. Derek, if you can change, everybody can change.
In fact, when I'm Yankees manager, before every single game, as part of batting practice, we're going to have the Rocky versus Drago fight on the big screen. Yes. No more Yankeeography. No. Just Rocky versus Drago. Every day, like Groundhog Day, on repeat, 162 games or 81 games a year.
We're not even going to have like the in-between like games or during the breaks. We're
not even going to announce the lineup. We're just going to show the Rocky montage where he's driving and there's no easy way out, like, and everybody's in tears because Apollo keeps falling in slow motion, and Drago's hitting him after the bell, and Drago totally would have been locked up for murder.
Yes.
For murder. He threw the referee across the ring and then beat an unconscious man to death on his feet in the middle of Las Vegas. Drago would have been in jail.
They really underestimated Drago there. I really feel like they should have just kind of known. This guy kind of snuck up out of nowhere on them. But
the fact that Rocky, he ran those mountains, and he did the whole, like, the cart full of people, whatever it's called, and he deadlifted the bag of rocks, and he was able to get it done. that's an inspiring message. I don't want him watching 2003 or 2004 Yankees collapse. I'd much rather have them watching Stallone.
As you were describing Rocky IV, it dawned on me once again that there's a film in that series that won Best Picture.
The first one.
Yes, the first one.
And it's amazing.
And then it went to If I Can Change, You Can Change, and The Weird Robot. And
the Weird Robot, look, the robot is a mistake. But I want to, so two things about the robot. And we've gotten far away from the Yankees thing.
That's fine. That's fine.
The funeral, you share good times.
Yes.
There's two things about the robot. One, they released a new version last year that removed the robot completely. And they thought that made the movie better in some. Happy Birthday, Polly is like my favorite line in the movie. Happy birthday, Polly. What is this nightmare?
Oh gosh.
So one, that's, and the other thing is the recut was the most amateur editing I've ever seen. Like the way that they fit sentences together, you could tell Stallone was the one that was sitting there doing, hey, it's pretty good. Like it was horrendous, but it looked really good in 4K. So the fight.
I didn't see it. Look, if they did a recut of Godfather, I wouldn't go see it. Like,
yeah.
Rocky IV is perfect. Do not touch that, Stallone. All right, go work on it.
Yeah, I feel that way about one or two movies. Like there's a couple of movies I think are perfect. Like Jaws. I would never see a reboot of Jaws because to me it's perfect. It's the perfect film.
No.
Terminator.
Jaws the Revenge, I could do a recut of.
Yeah, if they try and reboot Terminator from scratch, I won't see it because to me the original Arnold was as badass as it gets. But anyway.
Yeah.
Where were we? Where
I don't know.
What is this? What is this motivational coach? What is his qualifications?
It's a loser's mentality. That plus the wind excuse in game 2. All of this just reeked of a team. It reeked of a second tier team. It didn't reek of a team like the Yankees. Like you shouldn't be doing stuff like this. So
excuses. I never thought that the Yankees would get rid of Boone after this year, but the excuses about wind and exit velocity and all that nonsense, it really makes me feel like there's something wrong with the culture in that room.
There is a lot wrong with the culture. Maybe you needed somebody like Joe Girardi. You need some tough love. Maybe you need somebody like that. And
I got your guy. And I know some fans have said this and some fans are flat out against it. Your guy is Don Mattingly.
I'm fine with it.
Don Mattingly, look, I know he hasn't done a ton of winning, but the man understands how to play in New York and how to gain the respect of the fans. Fans have gotten really boo happy over the last several years. And I don't think it's a coincidence that it's correlated with a lack of winning. If the Yankees had won the World Series a couple of times in the last 5 years, I don't think they boo Judge last night. It's more like, you've been here this whole time. This is your best year. We expect you to carry us to a championship. And here you are going out 1 for 16 in the ALCS. And I feel like fans are just taking out their aggression and their pent up rage on him. Jeter got booed one time. I think that I can remember he was 0 for 31. And then I think he broke out of it with a grand slam or something like that, so look, fans are going to fan. But I really feel like the Yankees just need to consider a top down reevaluation of, hey, what are we really doing here?
I agree with all of that, but I didn't even bother mentioning it really on my show last night because I know it's not going to happen. It's a pipe dream. I know that Cashman and Judge have the same job security as a Supreme Court justice at this point. They're locked into that job. They are, as long as they're yes men, as long as they say yes to Hal and everything, then they're going to keep those jobs. And that's what's just frustrating to me. So that's why I haven't really thought about it. I'm more into what are they going to do on the player side? What are they going to do with that? Here's what player do you most blame for that? Maybe it's unfair because it's probably Cashman is probably the number one if you could blame whoever for this failure. But on the player side, who do you think is most responsible for this?
Donaldson certainly had a bad series, bad playoffs.
Bad is nice. Bad is kind.
Yeah. IKF wasn't too good on defense. He had some, and I've been a big defender of IKF because I think that he essentially was brought in to be a stopgap. Like he was brought in to just kind of keep shortstop warm until Peraza was ready. What blew my mind was that Peraza was, he looked ready to me in September. He certainly had a good year in the minor leagues, and everything I saw in defense from him, including in the postseason, said he was ready. But
didn't you love, by the way, last night when they put Peraza in at shortstop in like the 7th or 8th inning? I was like, oh, great, now you're going to do that.
Yeah,
It's almost like they're doing this on purpose.
It's like they're mocking us.
Oh, yes. Like you want Peraza? No, we're going to stick him in when there's no hope. We're going to stick him in when the Titanic is going down and they're playing My God to Thee or whatever it is. It's just, oh my.
Yeah, I think the guy who I was most unhappy with was probably Josh Donaldson. I think there was, Judge probably could have picked it up a little bit. We needed him to step up. I mean, he's your guy.
When he goes, we all go.
Yeah. Like. I think if he swings the bat a little bit better, it's a different story. He had a couple of key spots. I don't want to hear about, he almost hit one out. I want to hear about him hitting 450.
Do you think this is not, I'm not trying to do excuses here, but I'm really serious. Do you think he got hurt? Something happened between the 60th home run and after that 60th home run against the Pirates, he was not the same. Did the pressure get to him? What do you think happened?
No, what I think happened was pitchers started pitching him differently to avoid the home run, and that threw off his rhythm that he had been working on all year. And then once the playoff switched, it was like he was seeing pitches again, and it kind of threw him off. It was almost like he was late on strikes, and so we saw him late and pop up a couple of times. That's something he usually doesn't do.
No,
he's got such amazing bat speed that he's almost never late. We saw him go out of the zone more. I think maybe trying to do too much in the playoffs. We saw him chase sliders down in the way that he was laying off of for most of the season. So, I mean, look, I saw a lot of people saying, "Oh, let him walk, get rid of Judge." To me,
people are idiots.
I still think you got to re-sign Judge, but I think you got to put the right players around him. I think Benintendi going down was a bigger loss than people realize.
Those people that after watching this season still have the nerve to say Aaron Judge should let Aaron Judge walk are number one examples of birth control. Like
without
not exist.
Without Aaron Judge, the Yankees probably win 89 games.
Yeah,
maybe.
He single-handedly won us the division.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for you to be like, after all this, it kind of reminds me how my dad talks about how in 2015, Daniel Murphy, my dad's a Mets fan. Daniel Murphy had this unbelievable postseason run, and then he stunk in the World Series. And my dad at the time was like, "Get rid of Daniel Murphy. I don't want to see him. He was like, he's so bad in the World Series. I'm done." And I tried to tell that, hey, you don't get to the World Series without what Daniel Murphy was able to do. But he's like, nah, I don't want him. And then he goes to Washington and he buries the Mets every time he plays them. And I feel like that's what people are doing here. And I get you're emotional, I get you're upset, but 62 home runs, something that only three other guys have ever done. And as far as we know, Judge is the only one to do it clean. And after all this year, and homegrown Yankee, so loved.
And a class act.
And a total class act. And you just like, let's get rid of him. I know that's a small minority. I know it's a small minority. And that's why sometimes you can't take Twitter too seriously.
Yeah.
But
he's an amazing, once in a generation player. And even if you sign him to a 10-year deal and the last 3 or 4 years are tough and you're in kind of a Pujols situation, I think he's so good now that even if he regresses, I mean, if he gets 15% worse next year, he's still MVP level. Yeah, he could go down by 15 home runs and have 47 home runs.
Exactly. So
and do we really think he's going to hit 15 less? I mean, over the course of the year, and the fact that the shift is going away, that might actually help with some of the exit velocity stuff. The Yankees hit a lot of balls up the middle right at Astros in this series. Gleyber Torres, a few of them, IKF once or twice. I know that Judge struck out a lot, but his exit velo really does like give him an advantage without the shift, because more balls are just going to get through because the infielders won't have the time to react. So wouldn't surprise me if next year he hits higher than he did this year when he hit 311. Might hit 320, 325 next year with 50 plus home runs. And even if the back end of that contract is bad, you still got to do it. And just find the right players to put around him. Invest in Andrew Benintendi. I love what Harrison Bader gave you. Look, that's probably the best outfield in Major League Baseball if you stick with it next year and everybody's healthy. You can do better at third base. You can probably having Peraza and Volpe by next year, you're going to have some of that young talent, like, we saw with, what was his name? Pena,
Yeah.
the shortstop. Yeah. Jeremy Pena.
I'm gonna have him in my nightmares.
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
Anthony Volpe could be every bit as good as him, if not better. And I think having the Martian right around the corner is helpful. If I was the Yankees, I would really investigate what it takes to get rid of Giancarlo Stanton. I know we all love him. I know he's been extremely clutch. He had a couple of home runs, but I really think that you could move him to LA for the right amount of
Stanton for Ohtani.
I don't know if he would accept a trade to the Angels as much as he would to the Dodgers.
Okay.
From the Dodgers, and he's got that no trade clause.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I could see him going to the Dodgers. And I said the same thing last year. If they were interested, I mean, they took Joey Gallo. Why not take Giancarlo Stanton? And they've got the money. They can definitely do it. But that would free you up to open up the DH position to allow, more guys to cycle and have days, like DJ LeMahieu, Anthony Rizzo, like one of those guys being the DH every day keeps them both healthy a lot more. And I think just overall that will lead to more wins. The horrible August this year was due in part to injuries a lot, and one thing I think the Yankees were missing after Mike King went down was middle relief. They should investigate, somebody who maybe profiles as an average starting pitcher, but that has the stuff that, that fits well out of the bullpen, that maybe a good sinker, something like that. Somebody who's got one pitch that can get you through 6 hitters, right? If you can do that and bring that in to supplement your bullpen, I think your bullpen gets a lot better. I think you got to look at Edwin Diaz, the back end of the bullpen. So for me, the way I would spend money this winter, I would get Judge, obviously, Benintendi, and probably Diaz. I would look to see if Carpenter's willing to come back on a team-friendly deal. I would try and move Stanton to unload a little bit of contract. I would do whatever I could to get rid of Donaldson and Hicks, even if that means just releasing them. And I would replace them with younger players that are athletic and from your system. And if you lose with them, you lose with them. But we can't continue having guys like Donaldson that just don't hustle. I think you need to bring in a manager that has accountability for players who don't hustle. If Gleyber Torres doesn't hustle out of the box, he should sit for 2 games, and I bet you he hustles the next time.
Yeah. If
Josh Donaldson gets thrown out on the bases because he didn't hustle, I want him fined $10,000 and bench 2 games,
Why not?
So that's just how I feel.
That sounds completely logical. It makes total sense, which is why the Yankees will not do it. They will do everything other than that. It's frustrating because I don't know if there's ever any team like this where they're in the playoffs every year. Like in this 13 years, they've only missed the playoffs 3 times. They're almost always in the ALDS or ALCS, and yet we as fans we're never satisfied because we only have one expectation. That is the World Series. And I can make an argument that in this entire Baby Bombers era, which I think last night, if last night was Judge's last game, that will be the official end of the Baby Bombers era. Yeah. The only year that you could say was a success probably was 17 because we had no expectations and we were way ahead of schedule. 19, maybe just because of all the injuries, but even then, like losing to the Astros, but definitely the last 3 years, failures. And that is the unrealistic. That's what being a Yankee fan is. Like we have this expectation. We want to win a championship every year. And this organization just, for some reason or another, they always shoot themselves in the foot. I have a thinking about this organization. Quick question. Would you take back the 0-3 ALCS home run if it meant Boone never became manager? Because I was thinking about that yesterday. I was thinking I might give that up right now.
Yeah, they didn't win the World Series. I'd give it back. Yeah. Yes. I'm not a Boone guy. I thought I gave him a decent grade for the regular season, but the constant miscommunications, to me, that's just a cardinal sin. You got to be able to communicate with your players. That's why they got rid of Girardi, right? The communication. That was a problem with Joe Torre too. I want somebody who can communicate with the players, and I'm not talking about being their best friend and playing video games with them. I want a leader in there who, Buck Showalter to me was the perfect manager, and he did a hell of a job with the Mets this year. I know they didn't get where they needed.
There, he was in your studio. He was on the payroll. Nah, we don't want him. Let's keep Boone.
Yeah, and he did a nice job, and I know the Mets didn't get the result they wanted, but you can't pin it on on Buck. It's really on the two big aces getting hit in the playoffs, which happens. I mean, what's he going to do? Not start DeGrom and not start Scherzer?
Exactly. It's just what are you
that's
do?
just that he got baseballed, right? But
Yes.
he did a hell of a job with that club. I think he would have done a hell of a job with the Yankees.
That's baseball, Susan.
Yeah, right. I mean, look, we can sit around all winter and say woulda, coulda, shoulda,
and we
but
will.
really, what we really need to do is use our platforms to, sort of let the team know and let the people, the higher ups know that, what they're doing, we can kind of see through what they're doing, right? With the analytics and the excuses, and it just feels like it's almost like a preschool team or something. I don't know how to describe it. They're very soft. That's what I'm trying to say. They're very soft. And that's not what the Yankees are about with the whole Darth Vader thing and stuff. Like, I want the evil empire, the team that spends the most money. I want the team that, will trade for the big guy to help you down the stretch. The Yankees should have Justin Verlander on their roster. They should have had him,
They should have had Harper. They should have had Machado. Should have had all these guys.
There's really no excuse for Harper. There's no excuse. He wanted to be a Yankee. He said it when he was 16. He's tailor-made for Yankee Stadium. He's 6'3", 220 of solid muscle and lightning bat speed. The dude swings a massive bat with a gigantic barrel and just crushes the baseball, and he hits for average, and he draws walks, and he plays hard, and he understands baseball. He loves the game. The guy was a Mickey Mantle fan. That was a big mistake.
Josh Donaldson is making $3 million less than Bryce Harper this year.
Unbelievable.
I mean, and I loved your tweet last night where you said the Yankees should have spent $25 million on lottery tickets, and that would have been a better use of the money than $25 million on Josh. Oh, gosh. Donaldson, Hicks. This is like we're reaching Ellsbury territory with some of these bad contracts.
Right.
I got sad, by the way, when I looked behind your chair and I saw your hat, and it made me.
Oh yeah, the fun hat.
The fun hat.
Tired for the summer. I put it in the thumbnail for the postmortem. Yes. Like I literally went to Amazon and like took the screenshot of it, removed the background, and then I made it look all dusty and gross. And I thought about maybe like retiring it like all time and then just having a different hat each year. Like this, I could write like 2022 in it, put it on the wall, get a different one. Cause I got one back there from last year that I didn't really wear. But it's got a big stain on it. So I just put it, in the background. But I'm thinking about just having like a hat per year, you know?
Why not? Yeah. Hey, it's your show, man.
Maybe get like a slightly different I don't know. Just, next year, I thought about for a minute, for like 5 minutes. I was like, do I really want to do this like exactly the same next year? But I'm totally going to end up doing it almost exactly the same. I think I might just take Sundays off next year again.
All right. Whatever you do. I'm glad personally, because I really enjoy your contract and I also really enjoyed the job. So I'm very happy that.
So I got to get you on. Like, I didn't realize you had all this set up. Like, we got to get you live after some games next year.
This is actually this is the first time for some reason, this is the first time I think I've used Zoom. Like, I've started a Zoom meeting or something. I really was not really into that during the pandemic. I never really used that, but I was like, sure. I'd love doing this kind of stuff and talking to you. And but what I wanted to finish up with is we got like 5 minutes to go here because I didn't realize that Zoom only has 40 minutes on its time, which is so stupid. What's next? What's next for your channel, man? What's next for what are you gonna be doing for the rest of the off season?
I've been working on a lot of stuff behind the scenes over the last few weeks. I put out the postmortem today. I put out the top 5.
By the way, Yankees. Sorry to interrupt. I didn't do a what's went wrong. Last year I did a what's went wrong video about the Yankees. I didn't do that this year because I knew that you were going to do one, and you said everything I wanted to say more. So go check out Eric's video there.
Oh, appreciate that. Yeah, I essentially I've been spending the last several weeks preparing that, and I haven't really thought of what's next like this winter. I'm sure I'm going to like dive into like, free agents that are available, trade targets, all the same stuff that we've done the last couple of years, just updated versions of it. But I've really got a lot of like behind the scenes stuff that I've got to do. My library for Final Cut Pro is like 3 terabytes now, for all these 3 seasons put together. So what I've got to do essentially, and what people might see is next year when things start up, you might see a complete like facelift in how everything looks, like, because I'm probably just going to delete the entire library because a lot of it's stuff like that I put together when I was just learning the program, getting a little better, like picking up a thing here or there. But now I feel like I could teach a master class on it because I've been doing it so much that I might just throw everything out and just start over. Kind of like how Louis C.K. every once in a while throws out his whole routine and just writes a new one. Jerry
I don't know if you should
Seinfeld.
mention Louis C.K.
I love Louis. He's the best.
I mean,
Except for the masturbating in front of
except
people.
for that. Other than that, was like, and how was the play?
Yeah.
Seinfeld's a better, like when he got rid of when he had his final show.
Yeah, he had a funeral for his act.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
by the way, did you ever see there's a documentary called Comedian? It's on Netflix and it's about him redeveloping a new act. And also follows
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it's phenomenal. It's a must watch. And now you got your nights free.
I got many nights free.
I want to make sure you watch it. It's got this other comedian named Orny Adams, it's just a really funny, really funny documentary. And I mean, all-time top 5 documentary. So check it out.
I probably will be watching. Again, I'll have the time now. After watching this Astros Philly series, which I will watch because I do love baseball. I'll watch some football. The Jets and Giants are really good. I'll watch the Knicks have a point guard now. There's things to watch. There's things. The Nets might not be terrible. Ben Simmons actually might be a plus. Maybe I'm being too positive, but there's other things to watch other than the Yankees.
I'm gonna catch up on my PlayStation 5ing. I've got the new NBA 2K game, and at first I didn't like it, but I started a franchise and I moved the Blazers to Las Vegas and made them the Las Vegas Devils. And I downloaded this, like I downloaded a stadium and a logo and like these awesome uniforms that somebody made. And like I traded a bunch of guys and I've basically got my own starting 5 and I switched it to I want to say it's like a 15 game season so that I can play them all. Cause I have trouble with the 82 games, it's just like, it's a lot of gaming, but I can definitely do a couple of franchise seasons of 15 games. So I'm working on that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Derek, for being a part of.
Thank you all season for all your help, man.
Absolutely, man. I've really enjoyed it. As Billy Joel said, we're sharing a drink called loneliness, but it's better than drinking alone. So I'm so thankful again that you were here for this day. Thank you guys for watching the Derek and my channels all season long. We'll be back next year, hopefully with a 28th title, but not feeling too good about it right now.
We'll see.
We'll see. Thank you so much, Derek. Take care.
Later, man.
Later.